Writing crime fiction, 7 questions to ask. Would you like to get into writing crime fiction? Well, here are 7 questions to ask to get you started. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another session of Walking with Randy, where we talk about writing, speaking, coaching, marketing, and marriage. Today, we're talking about writing crime fiction, 7 questions to ask. Well, if you would like to get into writing crime fiction, are some of the questions that you could ask. First of all, who are the characters? You have the protagonist. This would be the hero or the heroine. And as I mentioned before, it's often good to give your hero or your heroine a flaw within their character, something where they're having a little bit of struggle as they are going through the process of solving a crime or solving a problem. And just makes them a little bit more interesting. Then you have other interesting characters. You would have the victim. Now, unless the victim is just an outright scoundrel, you usually want to honor the victim in some way, the memory of the victim. And especially if they really are a victim and where what happened to them was no fault of theirs whatsoever, you would want to honor the memory of the victim. Then you have the eyewitnesses, and beyond that, you would have the suspects and the actual bad guys. And if you want to make it interesting, make your criminal a complex person. The things that they have to deal with and the issues they have, the thoughts they have. Maybe they are kind to animals. Maybe they have some things that you would not expect from a criminal. And maybe they are torn within themselves as to what is taking place. Well, then you think about the perpetrator, and those would be the characters. The second question is, what is crime fiction? Well, it is writing that deals with everything related to a crime, and it can range from mysteries and whodunits all the way through thrillers. In most cases, the crime has already been committed, and you're trying to figure out who committed it and why it was committed. But in some cases, in the cases of serial killers, the crimes would be ongoing. In the cases of thrillers, oftentimes the crime is ongoing, and maybe it's not been committed yet. Well, so we have who, what, then when. When will the parts of the story take place? Well, you can have your crime fiction set up like many stories are that are set up in 3 acts. So in Act 1, you have the protagonist who is introduced to the problem or to the crime. And then in Act 2, you have the protagonist solving the crime. It's how they go about managing to do that. And you also have taking place in Act 2 the discovery of what the story is really about. And sometimes you have 2 stories going on at the same time. You have the story of the struggle going on within the life of your main character and the actual story of the events as it goes along. And that all takes place in Act 2. And then in Act 3, you have the process of actually catching the villain and or saving someone or saving the world. And those are when the elements of your crime fiction take place. Who, what, when, where. Where does the story take place? Well, it would be the world where the crime took place, or where the perpetrators of the crime would hang out or where they would flee to. But it is the world where that would take place. And it is often good to make this place an unfamiliar place to the protagonist, where the hero or the heroine has to get used to being in a new place and discovering new things about that place, as well as the obstacles they have in finding out about the story. Well, then how will the crime be solved? Well, you have the process of following clues, and you often have helpers that come along and help the main character in solving the crime. And you may even have high-tech science and high-tech devices involved. In some cases, it would be forensic science that would be involved, but not always. And then it is solved by moving through moments of suspense. Now, how do you create suspense in your crime fiction? Well, you do it through conflict and descriptions of conflict. You do it through time limits. If something is not accomplished by a certain time, then something dire will happen. You do it by distractors. You take the reader down a wrong path for a little while. Sometimes we call those red herrings. And then you do it through descriptions of mood, the ups and downs in the characters' lives, and you do it through movements of growth within the characters' lives. And then we come to question number 7. So the first 6 have been, who are the characters? What is crime fiction? When will the parts of the story take place? Where does the story take place? Why did the crime happen? And how will the crime be solved? And then question number 7, what then? How is the hero or the heroine changed as a result of this process? And then perhaps, what is the hint to a possible future adventure that the hero or the heroine might be involved in? Well, I hope these tips have been helpful to you. If you would like more tips like these, go to randycarney.com. And if you'd like to find out even more about writing, go to amazon.com and search for How to Write a Book in 28 days or less without stressing yourself. Well, until another session of Walking with Randy, remember, you can write a book.